All right, this one's going to be entitled The End of Homeownership in Canada. I've done a few of these, but I don't think a lot of people appreciate the gravity of the situation. The end of ownership in Canada, particularly in cities like Vancouver and Toronto. So, I put this largely on this Liberal-NDP government because I believe that this government is pushing us towards a future where no one owns. Everyone is going to rent and work for the government, in my opinion. So I'm going to break this down. And this is, by the way, this is from somebody who used to vote NDP. I voted NDP for many years. So give you a bit about my backstory, from NDP to now conservative, why I kind of shifted gears here in terms of my political leaning. So I worked for 10 years for the City of Vancouver, the engineering department. Great, full benefits. It was a union shop, defined benefit pension plan. And I voted for the NDP for about 10 years because my union, they would tell us, hey, it's the working man's party. They're looking out for you. You want to get a raise next year. Of course, Coupar was the union. They're going to tell you to vote NDP. And over time, though, I realized, punching the clock, it just wasn't for me. Some people like it. They go home, they punch the clock, 3:30, they're done. But I'm more entrepreneurial. I wanted to build something for myself. I left the security of that job and jumped into real estate. Of course, they always told me, you're crazy. You're giving up all this security. Well, I felt like I was in a maximum security prison, though. I went into real estate, zero safety net here, but you do have the ultimate freedom to set your own schedule and it's all on your own terms. What I started to realize, though, in making the switch from the public to the private sector is that starting a business in Canada, particularly in Vancouver, is absolutely brutal because we have criminal income taxes in this country, the capital gains, the red tape, the CRA breathing down your neck. Canada makes it harder than ever to start a small business or build any kind of meaningful wealth. It's just very difficult. All of the jobs that have been created during the last term of Mr. Trudeau here have been government jobs, bloated bureaucracy, not the real economy. The real economy, of course, is the private sector. That's the backbone of the entire economy. Small business owners, entrepreneurs, investors. And Trudeau and the NDP have gutted it. And BC leads the decline. You look at mining, pipelines, forestry, and of course, then you get economic productivity that declines. We have a serious productivity problem in this country, which leads me to the death of the Canadian dream. So homeownership, that was always the Canadian dream. About 65% of us owned our homes. People would move here for that but that dream is fading fast, especially in cities like Vancouver and Toronto. So I've seen a shift here from ownership now towards renting. And what I've seen here is a few years ago, developers were only building these, what could only be described as ultra luxury condos. So we're talking about the Butterfly, Alberni, Kengo Kuma. These are all designed by these world-renowned architects, amazing architecture. But we're talking Vancouver House, of course. We're talking starting around 1,800 a square foot. Most of this product is well over 2,000. Some of it's even over $3,000 a square foot. And that's all that was getting built, and it's just to do with economics. The city fees, community amenity contributions, development cost levies, massive delays. It takes way too long to get anything built. Arduous approval processes. Now that market is stalled, though, because you guys are probably following this. There's only so many multimillionaires that can afford those kind of prices. And so for that reason, you're not really seeing. There is that curve development still in the works, but for the most part, development on that is stalled now. And those, by the way, those luxury condos are a tough sell right now. Developers have pivoted towards purpose-built rentals. Never used to be that way. It used to be they would rather pre-sell it in a month take the money, put it in their next project. There wasn't a lot of incentive to build rentals, but that's changed because the rents are high. You get very stable cash flows, and the City of Vancouver is bending over backwards to try and get some rental product built. So these make sense on paper now. Everything that's getting built downtown is purpose-built rental. In terms of stratified condo projects, very little in the pipeline, guys. And what little is getting built, of course, is going to be ultra luxe, but none of it's going to be affordable. So where I see our future here, and this is it's the way things are going. It's a sign of the times. Look to Europe and Asia. So cities like Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, Tokyo, Monaco, London, Paris, Zurich, Geneva. These are cities where it's just understood that most people are going to rent. They don't own. And that's where I think the City of Vancouver is headed here, unfortunately. Vancouverites will rent for life. And I think that dream of ownership is slowly slipping away here. At the same time, we have capital flight. Capital is moving to places like Dubai. Dubai doesn't have any taxes as far as I know. Here in BC, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're punished, you're hammered. Taxes are sky high. And of course, our infrastructure is crumbling here. So, of course, what's next? We have a broke government. The liberal think tanks have been discussing taxing your primary home, a principal residence tax, which I've documented here. You guys thought that was untouchable. Well, I don't know. We're in dangerous waters here. So just to Liberal-NDP voters, I get it. I completely get it. I used to vote NDP. You want fairness. Let's tax the rich and help the struggling. Let's tax the fat cat homeowners and the investors. The problem is it's socialism. It just doesn't work. It drives capital out. It kills opportunity. The system becomes a trap. You end up becoming dependent on the government. That's exactly what they want. You guys seem to think that they're going to reallocate. They're going to take that money from the rich and give to the poor. They're not. They're just going to line their own pockets. That's the problem with these socialist governments. So, final word. I think we need a reset. I was disappointed here that Pierre Poilievre lost. I would have liked to see John Rustad as the premier of BC. I've met John, sharp, grounded. He gets it. BC, guys, should be the wealthiest province in the wealthiest country on earth with the amount of resources that we have. Instead, we're sliding towards this slow decline towards dependency and socialism. So that's why I've changed gears here. Used to be NDP, used to be liberal. Now I'm much more conservative leaning here as I get older. I'm Jay Coupar. Feel free to comment below or subscribe. Again, I think this is the beginning of the end of homeownership in Canada. See you in the next video.